the amount of cost we have just to get to point A from point B and save fuel. We all understand fuel cost. Now we all seek out to see what vehicle gets us the best fuel economy. Now look at what we're driving. What do you think? You know, the fuel economy there.
Yeah, pretty low.
You're lucky if you're getting 2 to 3 miles a gallon.
Welcome back to the Talk Midland podcast. My name is Logan Ricchetti with Modern Realty. Today I have Justin Finney, Finney Trucking.
That's right.
All right, so what is Finney Trucking and what do you guys do?
We are an excavating company. My grandfather started it back in 1972. We've kept it all just family. So we're a small family outfit. It's funny because the name is Finney Trucking. Sounds like we should just be trucking, but we actually do excavating work is what we do. So we do anything from residential to light commercial.
One of the things that you've done for me as a client is a septic field and a tank. And that's how we met a couple of years ago. It was a big field, big tank, big project. And I watched you guys from the window and it was just incredible to see how efficiently and professionally you handled that job. And for people who don't do work like that, like me, I look from the outside and I'm blown away by the fact that you guys can transfer equipment from your site to on-site on location, deliver it, bring it out, and then use it to move earth around. It's pretty incredible.
It's like when we were all little kids, we all had toys to play with, right? It's kind of like a big kid's dream to play with big toys now.
Yep.
There's a lot of safety involved and risks involved, but the more you do it, the more you get better at it, the accurate you get. Moving gets a little harder more and more as population grows and traffic's there, but you just adapt.
Well, I'm going to ask you about a bunch of your different services. I want to start with septic tank and field because that's just on the top of my mind right now. But when you think about the logistics of managing a job like this, the first thing, and I assume that you got to do is you have to have a lead for a client that needs a service. So new septic field and tank, somebody raises their hand, they reach out to you and says, hey, can you come over and quote me a new field and a new tank? Is that how maybe it starts?
Exactly.
Okay, so you go onto location, you meet with the homeowner and you say, okay, let's see what you have here. Let's see what your backyard looks like, your front yard looks like, the locations of the field and the tank. And then I assume that you got to go through some kind of process for understanding what the requirements are based on the municipality. Is that right?
That is correct. We pull a permit through the local health department. They come out, they take some testing. We get some information based on the residents, and then they issue a permit. And from that permit, we take it from there. Almost like a blueprint for a house is what that permit is.
Now, is that a perk test? Is that what they call it?
That is correct, yep.
Okay, so if I want to get a new septic and well at my house, or excuse me, new septic field and tank, would the first step in the process to just go get a perk test done, or can I do it myself? How does that work?
Your first step would reach out to the local health department.
Okay.
And then file the paperwork, pay whatever their fee is. They would come out and perform that test.
So the health department for the municipality comes out and they perform the test, which is effectively they dig some holes a certain depth in certain locations?
That is correct.
Okay, and they're looking for what exactly?
Water table height is what they're looking for.
So they dig down until they find water?
They dig down and then sometimes they find water. Midland County is rather wet, so it's usually pretty easy to find water. In the areas that you don't, they take looks at what the sand colors are and if sands are fine or coarse, also plays a role on septic field size.
All right, so they analyze the actual land where the septic field is likely to go. They get some calculations of water table depth, sand coarseness or fineness, whatever, and whatever else they need to be able to make a mathematical determination of what is required for that location.
That is correct.
They also take into account the size of the house, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms as well?
That is correct.
Okay.
As well as garbage disposals.
Okay. So the homeowner probably has to answer a few questions about the house itself.
That is correct as well. They'll have a form that they will fill out and has all these boxes to check. Then you go read through that and you check it off. Every homeowner will know the answers to the box. and they turn that in, and by that information and the soil information, the health department will build what the system needs to be to suit that house.
And that will come in the form of a permit.
That is correct.
That permit, I assume also that I would include your company name on the permit application so they know who's doing it, or is that not a factor?
It's not a factor. If say you're new to the area and you don't know who you're going to go through, but you know you need this service, the health department does have a list of everybody who's licensed in the area, and they will just hand that list to you so you can have a permit without a contractor labeled. Or if you already have reached out to a contractor, you can have their name put down, and then that contractor will be contacted by the health department via email as well with that permit.
Okay, so who is responsible for the permit, the homeowner or the contractor?
The health department likes the homeowner to get it, but we have in the past with some people that need a little assistance, the contractor will pull the permit in regards for the homeowner.
Got it. Okay, so in other words, it could be done either way.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. Is there a benefit to the homeowner to having the contractor pull the permit, liability-wise?
No benefit at all for that. The fee is the same. There's no transfer fee for my services to pull that permit for you. It's just whatever the fee is for the health department, that's what you get charged. So I could do the legwork. There's not much to it. But with homeowners, as for if there's any guaranteed that there'll be less risk, no. The health department takes the risk by having their agency come out and do the soil samples and perform what is suitable for that residence.
Okay, I got a permit. I come to you and I say, can you help me build a new septic field and a new tank? At that point, because you have the specifications on the permit requirements, you can now come out and take a look and then measure, look for complexities like how to get your equipment into certain locations, take those things into account if there's trees or anything else that has to come down or get out of the way or whatever. And then also you got to quote the cost of a new tank. You got to know the size, and I assume you have options of different types of tanks, different price ranges maybe.
Yep, we do. Midland County allows you to do plastic or concrete now. So you have those two options, and then you have vendors. You have a few local areas that we shop for our vendors, and the price is always competitive. Everybody wants the best for the cheapest price. So you shop your material, you get your price, you build off the permit what size is required, and you take that information, you put it all together, put it on an estimate, and send it in.
Concrete tank versus plastic tank, they both come pre-assembled and you drop them in, correct?
That is correct.
What is the benefit of a plastic tank over a concrete tank?
Plastic tanks, we've come to decide that concrete tanks deteriorate on well water with softeners, is what our theory is so far as a local census. So if you're on well water, we would try to use a plastic tank. Then the longevity would be there. Plastic tanks are very difficult in a wet area. If they're a high wet area, they do have anchors that you can put on them to help keep them from floating when they're empty. And at some point, they all have to be empty because you need to have them pumped.
Is it safe to say that when you empty a plastic tank, you should refill it with water to a certain level?
We actually do. We tell people to do that. We've had a couple that have lifted.
Yes.
It looks like a submarine coming out of the water. So we highly recommend that homeowners fill them halfway or 25% to get some weight in it. Most of the ones we've had pump or have had pop up have been during new installation, not years down the road.
Right.
It's just been new installation.
Yep. Is that because they don't fill them with water when they install them?
The ones that we had, yes.
Yeah.
That was the reason.
Okay. And so that doesn't happen very often, but it's something to think about with a plastic tank versus a concrete tank. Now, if there's an existing concrete tank and it's deteriorated, you have to crumble it. Is that right? You have to break it in place, and then you either bury it or you take it out?
We have it emptied, and depending on the site location, if there's room to put another tank without trucking it off, then there's a cost saved. So you can cave it, fill it in, and then do the new tank. If the site doesn't permit the room, well, then that will have to be removed and the new tank back in its place.
Okay, so that is a variable factor in the cost of the project based on whether you're going to remove the old tank or crush it.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, so that's another variable. All right, let's go to the field itself now, and let's talk about an existing field that's died. And one of the ways that you know the field has died is water is coming up to surface level because it's not dissipating properly. Is that correct?
Yes. So usually on a failed septic system, the grass will be extremely plush. So that'll be one sign that maybe your field is holding the water longer than it should. Some fields will bleed out on certain areas. So then you'll see surface water actually coming out. So there's another way to see. Some fields are complete secret and don't show any signs unless you dig them up, say do some test holing around in the field area to see what water's setting or in the aggregate itself. And them ones are always a little harder to pinpoint. Them ones are usually the ones that cause the backups in the house. So then once that backup happens, most people might not think about their tank and field as of, we just have something clogged in the drain. When really at all this time, it's been the field that's been the problem.
All right, so if I understand this right, water goes through your toilet and your sink and drain and everything. It goes into a pipe. That pipe pumps into the tank. That tank, with all your fun stuff in there, eventually it fills up. And as it fills up, it moves out of the tank and dissipates into the field. So if the field is not dissipating the water properly, then the tank will fill and it won't be able to drain. And obviously, at some point, the solids will fill the tank, and that's one thing. But if the field is breaking down, then the liquid will fill the tank.
That is right. So in your field, it'll fill all them 4-inch pipes that are out in the field. They will fill right to the top.
With what?
With water.
With water, because it won't dissipate.
Because it won't go nowhere. And then it just naturally works its way back up the highest point. And in your house, the lowest point will show the first signs, which is usually a shower. Unless you have a downstairs basement where the bathroom is down there, then that's the lowest point, and then that'll show maybe out of the sink or out of the toilet or out of the shower as well.
This piping that you put in on the outside of the tank, it goes into different rows like a cornfield, and each one of those rows has a certain distance. And I assume that you start with sand and then pea gravel, or there's some kind of process you got to scrape the dirt back. And then what's the first row of sediment, or how do you start the field before you put the pipes in?
When we start, once all vegetation's moved, then we will start with sand.
Okay.
So the coarser the sand, the better the drainage. So you'll start with the coarsest sand that you can get. Not all fields are dictated off of what they call a 2&S sand, which is really coarse. Most sand in Midland County is more of a medium defined sand, so it's not as coarse as 2&S. You'll lay that in there first to whatever the elevation has been dictated by the health department, and then you will start. Then you will do your stone with your pipe, and then your final grade will be a layer of sand on top with topsoil ready for grass.
Sand, rock, pipe on top of the rock?
Yep.
Or inside, like
on top, and then encapsulated as well.
With more rock?
With more rock.
So 4 or 5 inches of rock.
6 inches to be precise under the pipe, and then you have 2 inches over the pipe, in which the pipe is 4 inches, so you'll have 4 inches of rock on the sides of the pipe.
I always think, man, septic fields and tanks are expensive. Is that a big part of why? This seems like that's expensive.
They are.
That plus the labor, obviously. It's hard labor, skilled labor, but the materials add up and that much sand and that much rock, right?
That is correct. The materials really have made a pretty big change over the course of the years. That's made a big difference on cost of septic systems now.
Sure.
And then, labor.
Yeah.
You have the machines that you buy to do this versus, say, digging it with a shovel are expensive.
Now, that was something I didn't really understand until recently because I'm always the customer. I don't own any construction companies, and I always think, well, it only takes them 2 days. Why is it that much? But one of the things that we need to remember is that you own this very expensive piece of equipment that you have to purchase, maintain, finance a lot of times, and transport. So there is a lot of overhead built into the heavy machinery that's used for a project like this. So even if it only takes a couple of days, there's a lot more there than just the short-term labor, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The amount of cost we have just to get to point A from point B and say fuel, we all understand fuel cost. Now we all seek out to see what vehicle gets us the best fuel economy. Now look at what we're driving. What do you think? You know, the fuel economy there.
Yeah.
Pretty low. You're lucky if you're getting 2 to 3 miles a gallon. So when you're moving that stuff, just that cost alone is heavy.
All right, let's talk about it from a business owner standpoint, because you have to generate leads for business for services like this, septic fields and tanks. You have to create the bids, you have to sell the jobs, and then you have to deliver the jobs. And one of the things I think that would be probably pretty difficult there is quoting the jobs, because you have to take into account the time it'll take to do the job, the distance to get to the job, the scope of work of the actual requirements of the permit on the job. Then you got to go find out what the septic tanks cost this week and how much the dirt is this week, and and this and that.
Right.
Then you got to schedule with your crews, who you pay salary, I assume, right? You have crews on payroll, and then you got to schedule the jobs. Then you got to collect the deposits, and it's a nightmare. There's a lot more going on than people might think when they have to order a new field and tank, which they're probably in a bad mood anyway because they're paying a big money to flush the toilet, right? And they don't necessarily realize, hey, the person delivering this service to you is going through a lot just to be able to do it.
That is very, very much true. We with those septic fields just those alone, everybody's angry when we show up.
I was angry.
It is
It's like, this is crap.
It is like a secret to home ownership out in the country.
Yeah.
You never think about that stuff until it fails.
Yep.
And then that's a large unforeseen cost.
As a real estate salesperson, we always advise our clients to check the field and the tank, and we do that on almost every job, and pump the tank when it needs to be pumped. But the longevity of the field could be anywhere from a couple decades to 100 years. It depends, right? What makes a field deteriorate, one field faster than another field?
Well, things that don't break down. So anything that has like a oil base to it, they have a hard time to break down into the field. It's best to research out as much as possible when you're on a conventional system like that. The health department will give you little pamphlets to help guide you in the right direction, so to speak, for what you're doing. A big thing is, everybody wants soft skin. So you're buying all these products and they have different types of oil in them because that's what gives us the soft skin. So when you're buying these products, you're also running them down your drain. So when that goes down your drain, the oil stays on top of the water and will try to travel out into your field, which now the health department has, several years now. We have a filter system that we put in that tank now to help minimize that. We're trying to get septic system fields, or the health department is, I should say, trying to get them to give you a good 30 years out of them because it's such a large cost for people to do them. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes cleaning products don't break down like they should with the time, and they will seal off your field. And it's just, you just hope for the best, really, on minimize what you're shoving down there when it comes to them type of products, and be smart on what you're buying. And some people have to just sacrifice having maybe not as soft skin to keep their field in check.
So we're talking about things like dishwasher detergent, soap, shampoos.
Very much.
Like
Yeah, even lotions to you're lotioning, and then you lotion in the morning and you take a shower at night.
Now, if I pumped my tank more proactively, would that make a difference?
That does make a difference. That if the health department will give you a guideline based on how many people's in your household, so whether it be every 2 years or every 5 years, to help minimize what's getting out in the field. Your local person who pumps your tank should be able to tell you on your sludge content when they do it the first time, to give you a guideline on, maybe you could wait an extra year, or maybe you need to have it a year earlier. All those things take factor on trying to keep that field as good as possible.
The problem is most homeowners, or at least myself, I can speak for myself, they don't think about it until there's a problem.
That is true.
And then, in the field, something starts gurgling and backing up, and then you call the septic guy, say, hey, I need my tank pumped. And they come over and they pump the tank. And then that's when they realize that there's been 2 years of deterioration in the field because you haven't pumped the tank properly. Right. And you just lowered the shelf life of your tank in your field. Mm-hmm. That's a bummer, but that's just the way it goes. So would you recommend then putting a septic tank on a service schedule?
Yes. The guys that we have pump our tanks for our jobs, they give you a little magnet and puts right on there when your next pump should be.
Yep.
And we try to encourage people to stay up on it. I can't tell you. Now, there's fields I've done that have lasted 30 years, 40 years. Who knows really 100% why? Maybe they don't flush certain things down there. Maybe they're real active on what they're using. But we just try to encourage them to stay on a regimen of having that tank pumped and that filter clean.
All right, let's switch gears to field clearance, because this is interesting to me right now. I'm trying to build a house on a city lot, and I called you, of course, for I asked you for a bid on clearing that wooded lot to be able to build a new house.
Right.
When I called you and said, hey, can you help me with this? What was the first thing that you did to start that process of analyzing bidding that job?
Well, I go out and take a look at the site.
Okay. You did? So you went out and looked at it?
Yes.
Cool.
So I see what I have in front of me. How much trees, how much debris, underbrush, how much am I going to be removing? What's my estimated time on the work to be performed? How risky is it? How close am I to other houses, power lines? All that takes a factor on if I need to hire a guy to climb a tree to bring it down in pieces versus me just cutting it down or pushing it down.
So you measured those? Did you measure? Or did you kind of ballpark it with your experience? You can look at it and get an idea.
Just with the experience of looking at it, seeing how the tree looks, if it's in question. If I have any doubts, then I get another professional out who climbs trees and have them go through it.
All right, so the biggest trees, you have to subcontract that to a tree cutter, so that because your equipment, you don't want to knock a tree down that's too tall that could cause a liability or complicate the rest of the excavation.
If they are close in proximity to things of danger.
Okay, so and that can get expensive when you're hiring a tree cutting service, because those 1 tree, 2 trees at a time get more expensive because again, they have the same issue. They got to drive their equipment to the site, right?
Right.
They got to set that time aside, and the actual work itself might only be 3, 4, 5 hours, but the entire scope of that delivery of service includes much more than just what we see.
That is true, and also in the fact that if he makes a mistake, I mean, we're all humans. He makes a mistake and it wipes out a power line or a neighbor's house or falls in a neighbor's yard. Now there's that added expense that we cannot put on to the customer, but absorb ourselves for our mistake.
That's the risk of delivering the service. So it's got to make sense to do.
Correct.
All right. And then, so you looked at the lot, you went out and measured, you went out and visually inspected the lot. You, in your mind, started calculating the additional services or resources that you might need to call in on the job. Does that particular job need a third party to cut trees down?
No.
Okay.
We'd be able to handle that.
That's interesting. I didn't know if you were going to say that because there's a lot of big trees there. So you must be able to handle pretty big trees.
We can do a pretty good job for the most part. It's just when they get a little too close, So, and they're pretty close. I mean, we also take a look at, is the tree leaning in the right direction?
Mm-hmm.
If it's leaning in the right direction, then we know that a little nudge from the opposite side will get it to go in the direction that we want.
Let's get into the tactics a little bit. You got this job. You're starting this job tomorrow morning. You're going to get on the site with some equipment. What equipment are you going to bring to the site?
Large equipment, we'd have dump trucks and an excavator there.
Obviously, dump truck is to put the materials in that you're taking away. So if you have a dump truck, does that mean that you're not going to mulch the stuff on site, or maybe you're going to do that off site, or what's going to happen to the stuff?
Usually, if I feel that mulching it would be a priority or to minimize it, we'll come in and mulch down and then drop down the big stuff. If I think it's a cost savings to strip it first, then I'll do that, do it that direction. I look at what way is going to be the fastest way to get in and out safely, but yet save my customer as much money as possible. Because if you save them money, that's where you get your repeat business.
All right, then are you going to start from the street and push backwards? Or are you going to draw, you're going to go up a side and come back down from the back to the front? How are you going to approach the lot?
For that particular lot, we would start in the front and then work our way down the sides and bring everything to the center. So I actually do almost like a circle, so to speak. Even though it may be a rectangle, we'd work all four sides and work our way to the center. So everything can be dumped or pushed into the center of the lot. So then it's away from any adjoining lots.
So you're gonna cut down towards the middle, around in a perimeter.
That is correct.
Now, what about if there are some specific trees or general areas where we want to leave some trees and shrubbery and vegetation? Do we need to sit down and draw it out ahead of time so that whoever's actually handling the machinery knows roughly where to stay away from things, or specifically where to stay away from things? In other words, can we contour that lot to some kind of a plan?
Yes, we can. We usually first we'll get it on a drawing, and then we'll go out in the field and mark it out in the field. This is the no-go area
With the homeowner, with the owner.
With the owner, and then we know what areas, what we're saving and what we're not saving.
Interesting. Does that make it a lot harder?
Sometimes, yes.
I bet it does. If you got 15 trees in the back left-hand corner and you save 2 of them, how do you handle that? You got to get on with a chainsaw now? You got to.
Yep, we do a lot of chainsaw work. We work around it. Some trees, you may not be able to take the stump if there's close to another tree that you want to save. So that tree gets cut flush to the ground. Maybe we have another service come in and grind the stump so you can be yard, but not disturbing the roots of the tree that you want to save.
So if you were going to grind a stump on a tree next to a tree that you wanted to save, I've seen stumps grinded before. It's an interesting process. It's a stationary machine with a big saw on the front, like a vertical saw, I think. Or
big wheel.
Yeah, a wheel.
Yep.
And then you pushes it down and they just. Now, is that going to go below ground level?
We would have them take it below ground level so that we could get topsoil over it so you could have yard there.
What's the downside of stumping to grinding a stump versus removing it?
Over the time of years, maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 100 years, the stump does die off. And as it's dying and rotting away and decomposing, sinkholes will happen. So whether or not in a couple years, you may have a impression starting to settle there. So then it's a routine maintenance to keep that up.
Gotcha. But it's much more expensive to dig an actual, 6-foot diameter stump out of the ground, right?
Usually, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So in addition to excavating the lot, and am I saying that right? Excavating it?
Correct.
Okay. In addition to excavating that lot, you're also doing some grading and some fill dirt installation. Is that right? I mean, you're finishing the site as well as removing all the demolition, all the debris. Is that correct?
Yes. So we come in, and once we get the site cleared and ready for the new build, then the new build, we open it up for the new build. The new build takes process.
But let me ask you, when you describe it as preparing it for the new build, what does it look like at that point? Is it all black dirt, or is it just what's left?
It'd be just whatever materials under the sod and the root mat that may be there in the woods.
Okay.
So it may be sand, it may be clay.
Okay.
That's what's left. And then once the build is moving forward, then we come back and start to shape what the yard's going to be like for water drainage.
If we're doing a slab on grade, are you preparing the land for the concrete company to come in and pour the slab, or are they coming in and preparing the land to pour their own slab? Who handles that?
We get it prepared to what we would say is a rough grade.
Okay, rough.
So rough meaning 1 to 2 inches from final.
Okay, so pretty close.
Pretty close. And then they come in and get it right to grade, what they want.
Using measurements, some kind of measuring apparatus. Okay. And
correct.
On a stand, and they use all kinds of lasers. Okay.
To shoot elevation.
What are they reading from that? Where are they getting that from? Are they getting that from a builder's plan, from an architect? Or are they know what that needs to be, or they're deciding on their own? How does that work?
So we all get the blueprint as the first stage.
Okay.
And on that blueprint will give us benchmarks on what we want for elevation. And that's what we're all going off of.
So the developer, the homeowner, whoever has to get a building plan that includes elevations of that part of the process, and that's delivered by the architect?
Yes.
Okay. So in the set of building plans, do I need to have my building permit approved before I hand that to you, or can you go off of what we think it'll be? It seems like it almost needs to be approved, right?
It does, yes. It is best if you're going to move forward, have your plan approved, because if they deny that plan and you change something, then that change could impact the cost for every trade that you have involved.
So get the building permit ahead of time. That building permit will reference those plans. Those plans will reference those grades, and then the delivery of service from the excavators and the concrete people and everybody involved will be going off of that plan set.
Right.
And so it says, whatever it's, I don't even know how to read them, but it says, 4 feet, 6 inches tall in the center. And that. So you're measuring as well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. We take sites. Everything's done with a laser now. So we take shots. There'll be a benchmark that'll be given out there.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they pick something that will never move.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the curb of the road. It could be the top of a manhole. And we would shoot that, and then they will tell us how much elevation we're going up or down from that particular point.
So does the architectural plans do that, or do you do that?
The architectural plans do that. Okay. That's what they do.
From a survey?
From a survey.
So if I'm building a property, so that property is going to need to be surveyed. That survey is going to have a benchmark. That benchmark is going to shoot elevations, which the architect is going to incorporate into the building plans.
Correct.
And then you guys can read them.
Nope.
And you read them every day.
Exactly.
Piece of cake for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, it ain't for me. That's for darn sure, because I've never done it. And you're looking at a acre lot, or a 10-acre lot, or a 100-acre lot, or even a city lot. Doesn't matter. You have to do calculations, and you have to move machinery around Earth to match those specifications.
Yes.
Is that hard?
Sometimes it can be very hard, depending on what we're trying to move around, and for example, keeping some trees.
Mm-hmm.
Say there's an elevation change from one tree to where that you want to save to what the house is going to be. Now we have to figure out, how are we going to make this elevation work out from existing grade to this new grade that we need to have. So then them sometimes take a little time to achieve that.
So you're either digging the tree out, or you're burying the tree a little bit?
Well, you don't want to bury them. They don't survive. They get buried if the root mat, from what I understand, anything by the drip line could cause the tree to die off.
Mm-hmm.
While digging them up, depending on the size of the tree, is an option, but it depends on size.
Got it.
So a lot of the trees that most people want to keep are very large because they're a mature tree.
And they want them for the ambiance of the lot anyway.
Exactly. So now we're contouring elevation to accommodate that tree's life.
That tree shows up on a survey, shows up on a building plan.
That is correct. Yep.
Wild. Very cool. So you're the cowboy that drives these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ringleader, more like it.
Yeah. Do you ever, I mean, you get up there and do some driving though, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a skill.
Yep. We all are involved, being a family business like we are. We are, each and every one of us do a part and do multiple parts.
Who's in the family business?
My father, my brother, and my son.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So
your father, you, and your kiddo.
That is correct.
But did your father start it?
My grandfather started it.
So your kiddo is the 4th generation.
Yes.
Holy
he will be
cow.
the 4th generation.
How old is he?
22.
Rock and roll. Rock
Yep.
and roll. Okay. So what is the vision for the future of Finney Trucking for you?
I think I'd like to see some growth. I think it would do us good. I do like the small family connection. Every customer we talk to is like family. I mean, you're meeting my family when we come out there. You're not just meeting a worker. You're actually meeting part of the family. So I don't want to lose that, but I think that growth would be good because scheduling is tough to get to everybody. And I definitely, obviously, would love to see my son to continue on, which at this stage in his life, he wants to. He enjoys it.
So you have employees as well as family, or is it just family?
Just family.
It's just the crew. It's just the blood.
Yep. It has been that way since my grandfather started it, whether it was my uncles or at one time, my mother and my aunt worked for the family business.
So I'm driving up Sturgeon the other day. I see Pine Oak Court, and I see a Finney Trucking truck there. That's where you guys are.
Well, at least one of us was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rock and roll. Okay. So you're doing one job at a time, which means you got to schedule these jobs by the week in advance. And I'm sure your schedule fills up. So I asked you if you could do this job, and you said you could get it to it in November, which is, a month and a half away. So you're booking out a month and a half, sometimes 2 months out in the future for bigger jobs like that. And how do you do that in the winter? Are you doing excavation jobs when it's snowing?
Well, we try to not do it too much in the snow if we can, but yes,
As needed.
if it's there. I mean, the last 10 winters, we have worked pretty much all through the entire winter. Maybe January, you might get a week here or a week there where it's too snowy or too cold. Outside of that, nope, truck right straight through it, dig right through it, keep going.
And now we talked earlier about you do excavation for builders for new construction.
That is correct. Yep.
And you also do retail jobs for consumers like me, septic fields, septic tanks, things like that. What percentage of your business roughly is new construction supporting, and what percentage is retail clients and everyday homeowners?
I would say we are pretty close to probably a 50-50, maybe a 60-40 maybe, to where I would say this year probably 40 on the builder side.
Okay.
Homes have taken a little bit of a turn, obviously, but it bounces back and forth. I have multiple builders that I work for, and then new builders that come in and just price shopping, and they might hire me for one or two a year or maybe one a year.
So as somebody who wants to build a couple of houses in Midland, and I've reached out to you for some help in doing that with this first lot that I picked up, what advice would you give to me in terms of how to communicate the needs and how to understand the dynamics of dealing with an excavator company like yours to actually execute on the job and the vision of what we're trying to do?
Blueprints are the best.
Okay.
Having them first to go off of. I can give you a rough idea on cost given the time that have in it and what you're doing. But blueprints, knowing exactly what you're trying to tell me on a piece of paper versus you just telling me in the air and me trying to visualize the same as you are, that will help narrow us down to a specific cost.
And the other thing was, I did that wrong, I guess. I called you up and said, hey, can you help me make this happen? And you're like, yeah, sure. I'll go look at it.
Yeah, you're not the only one. That's usually how it usually starts anyways. And then we get to the point of, hey, let's get a blueprint. How about we start with that,
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, the other thing, too, is you have different foundation options. You have slab on grade, crawl space, basement, right?
correct.
And a basement requires the most labor because you have to dig it out. Is that accurate
Yes.
to say? So more cost.
Yep.
As opposed to a slab on grade where you're pulling everything out and you're grading it and you're out of there. Crawl space, you got to dig down a little bit.
Yep.
Do I have that right? I mean, there's difference in terms of the scope of work based on the foundation type.
That is true. Yeah. Now, slab on grades would be also dictated depending on how much fill you have to bring in. That fill is probably the most expensive part to new homes, is trying to, what elevation are we set at? In the city, with city sewer, usually that's a pretty good thing. You don't have a septic system dictating our elevation. So you're able to achieve elevation maybe only based on your neighbors. So if your neighbors' lots are lower, then you could be a little lower and still maintain to get to city sewer. Out in the country where you have conventional systems, the health department say they tell you you need to be 48 inches is where the grass needs to be. Okay. And so that might be 48 inches of sand you have to bring in.
That adds up.
And that adds up really fast, especially if you want a yard, say with 40 or 50 feet yard on all four sides. You can see how quick the sand would add up to get that, to achieve that goal.
And then also one of the things that I think about when I build or I want to build is I want the house to be higher, versus lower. So the higher I want it, the more grade I require, the more it's going to cost.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. What about connecting to sewer lines and water lines and storm sewer? You mentioned that. Is that something that you provide as a service? And if so, how do you do it?
For new homes, we do.
Okay.
The city has where they have what they call a tap, and it's already performed, and they extend it out called a lead, and they have those. They'll give us that information on that lot where they're located at. They'll get marked out, and then they'll tell me what the elevation is, so what the depth is, and they will have an area that they did a benchmark on, whether it's a curb or a hydrant or a manhole cover. They'll give us that, and we'll shoot that, and we'll find that, and we'll dig down to that part, whether it's the water line, storm water, or sewer line, and then we'll hook on from that point and take it to the house.
Let's talk about that for a moment. Do you dig down with a shovel?
We dig down with a machine after we call Miss Dig. Everybody has to call Miss Dig. They come out, mark all the utilities. Then if there's a utility in the general area, say within 4 feet of where we're digging at, then we'll hand shovel to that utility first. Once we find that utility, then we carefully, mechanically dig down at that point.
If there's a sidewalk on the city lot, these connections are inside the outlawn?
They're supposed to be on the in-lawn side. So on past the sidewalk. So in the city, they have your in-lawn and out-lawn. Sidewalk to the home is your in-lawn. That's the homeowner's responsibility. Sidewalk to the road is the out-lawn. That is the city's responsibility. In the perfect world, that's how it should be and how we would hook up to. Now, is there times where it is in the out-lawn? Yes.
If it is, do you have to break open the sidewalk or can you dig under it?
We remove whatever section of sidewalk we need and then do our work, put it all back, put the sidewalk back.
You have to do concrete or somebody.
Somebody does.
You bring somebody in.
Yep.
Again, so I'm hired, your company's hired and then you're subcontracting that part of it to a third party that's part of your bid.
Yep.
Okay. Now, assuming that everything's in the right spot, there's 3 connections to make: city water, city sewer, and storm water.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, so there's 3, and I assume that the city water is a couple inch thick pipe, and then the sewer line and the storm water are 6 inches or 8 inches, something.
So your sewer line would be to the house would be 4 inches.
4 inches like this.
Yep. 4-inch pipe. Storm water can be from 4 inches to 2 inch, depending on what system you have in your home to get rid of your water.
Okay.
Water lines, depending on the distance, will be 3/4 inch to 1.5 inches, or maybe even 2 inch.
Now, so you find the connections, you hook up to the stubs. They're all in the right spot where you thought they'd be based on what the city told you.
Yep.
Now, are you building a trench to the middle of the house, or are you boring under the ground? How are you connecting the actual stubs with the pipes to the house itself?
On new builds, we'll open trench it.
Okay.
So we'll dig a trench all the way to the new house.
1 foot trench, 3 feet down, something like that.
4 foot wide, sometimes wider, depending on the soil, depending on depth. Anything over 4 feet, you got to have a box so the banks don't cave in, or you have to step it out for safety. So you have no collapsing of the earth on the person in the trench running the pipe.
Do the 3 pipes that you got to run, are they within a certain distance of each other?
Depends on the layout. Sometimes they can be close to each other. Sometimes they can be evenly spaced across the whole width of the lot.
Depends on the blueprints.
Depends on the prints. You know,
The prints dictate where the utilities come into the house.
that is correct.
So maybe you got the sewer line on one side of the house and the water line on another side of the house.
Yes.
Why would my architect design a house that way? Around the basement or whatever?
It would be designed depending on where your mechanic room is in the house, and then where are the utilities marked out for us to hook up to.
Got it. Because you can't make like a right turn on these things.
You would prefer not to. It can happen, but the straightest line to anything is the easiest path of resistance.
Well, if let's just say that the sewer line comes into the lot on the south side of the property, and the architect put the mechanicals and all these connections on the north side of the property, are you going to have a diagonal pipe going through that property?
If it makes sense to, then yes.
Interesting. As opposed to
Otherwise-
tapping in a straight line into the sewer line another way?
Right.
Who decides that?
Well, us in the
City?
city, and as well as the architect. Sometimes they will be involved out there with us on saying, "Hey, how about we do this?" And it makes it a little easier on site for the contractor on site.
This is getting complicated.
It sounds complicated, but we all do it every day, and it's not too bad.
Does it cost more? I assume it has to cost more if you got to write 2 or 3 trenches. You got to build 2 or 3 trenches versus 1 trench. It's twice the work.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's another thing that you need to analyze and calculate to deliver an accurate bid based on where things are.
Yep.
Now, can you ballpark that without knowing? Because you didn't know when I gave you mine.
We usually ballpark it based off our history of things that we've already done.
Got it.
So a lot of thing is based off history. You know, we did this one or that one, and we run into this or that. We remember that, mark that down. Now we need to readjust cost to accommodate just in case this happens.
This is a fully wooded lot. If the lot next door to it were completely barren with no trees, there would still be some similar fixed expenses for the project. You still have to deliver your machinery. You still have to bring your people out there. You still have to dig down and connect the utilities, right?
Right.
You still have to finish grade. The marginal difference in those two accounts would be all the tree removal,
That is correct. Yep.
which
the
is
trees.
which you calculate based on time it'll take and the expense to remove all that.
Yes.
As a percentage on the lot that you looked at versus a vacant lot next to it, would it be like half the cost or 80% of the cost? Or is it, in other words, is the removal of trees and shrubbery a big portion of the scope of the project, or is it a marginal small, it's just, you're there anyway, it's going to take a couple extra hours, no big deal?
It could be from a 10 to a 25% difference on it.
Cool.
Based on what the volume of trees we actually have. If they're all small stuff and easy to handle and quick, very minimum change. Very large change. If they're a large amount of trees, then there's more cost, more work, more labor.
But either way, 60, 70, 75% of that project is going to cost you that no matter how many trees are there, because so much of it is delivering the service, being on site, all that.
Yes.
That's interesting to know. I'm glad you answered that way, because I'm always wondering as I'm looking at a lot, that lot doesn't need to be cleared. That lot does need to be cleared. And, I don't know if you know this, but over off of Airport Road, they just cleared several acres.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that project?
I did see that.
And did you bid it? Were you involved in that at all? Or no. Okay.
That was a lot more trees than I felt like tackling.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big deal. And when that was going down, I live right over there. So there's a airport there, and I guess it's a FAA requirement that they got to clear some areas around some airports, which would, that a heck of a job.
Yeah.
So I watched that for a couple of weeks, and those guys came in with big heavy duty machinery, and they knocked that stuff down, and they attacked it. I was wondering, I was just curious what that kind of job could cost. I mean, it's got to be a 6-figure job.
I would imagine so.
6 figures.
Yeah,
100 plus
definitely.
thousand, maybe more.
You seen the amount of equipment that was there, the amount of fuel used.
Yeah, and time, just
Right.
time. Now, if you had that job, maybe, I don't know if you're set up for a job that big or not, maybe not, but just say you were. Where would all that stuff go? Where do you deliver it to when you take it off site?
Something like that. If you're gonna, I would mulch it like they did,
They did.
and then you can sell the chips.
So you can take the mulch down to the mulch store down off of Wackerly or whatever, and they'll buy it and resell it. Or
Well, I'm not sure if they would, but
So a place
maybe
like that?
more like a sawmill.
a sawmill.
Somebody that might do say OSB or something if it's the right chips that they're looking for, And that's how you would bid something that large, is where can I sell the material that's here? Because at some point, wood does have a value. And then you would want to look to see, where could I sell this at to recover some extra expense that I may have by trying to keep this as a competitive bid here.
Wow. All right. Septic fields, tanks, excavation for new construction. Are there any other core services that Finney Trucking offers?
We do driveways. We'll refresh up your old driveway. City water lines from the road to your house. If you was on a well and now you have water in your rural area, we will run you a new water line up to your house. Them are some of the top items that we offer.
You actually do the concrete for the driveways?
Just gravel.
Just the gravel.
Resurfacing gravel. Gravel driveways, yep.
So if I have a gravel driveway in the county, most likely, and it needs to be refreshed, so added a couple, like an inch or so onto with new gravel, you guys can bring that gravel, deliver it, deploy it out, and then shape it?
Yep, correct.
Okay. And if I want to hire Finney Trucking for a service like this, where do I go?
You can find us. We're actually on Facebook, trying that out, see how that goes. That is probably the quickest way for online services. You see our trucks running around, so they have the names on them. A lot of our service comes from word of mouth. Is a very large amount of our people that reach out to us is all word of mouth.
All right, so just go to Facebook or just Google Finney Trucking and we'll find the number.
We are on Google Maps. You will find us there.
Justin Finney, thanks for being on the Talk Midland podcast.
Thank you.